like you that, give us that kind of that sports fame and give us that kind of that look. I know. Have you done some of our pieces about our sports here? Yeah, so like we couldn't be happier when we see those, Saturday mornings or Monday mornings you come out and, you go to look at the rankings or something and you see that big story about you, that's just awesome. And I wish more teams would, or more schools would kind of reach out and do something like this, because I think it's really cool to be able to, kind of thank you and people kind of know who's behind the scenes. Well, all right, I think we're about ready to get started here, so I'll start off with our first question. Where are you from?
I am originally from Hayes. Well, I live in Hayes now. I've been in Hayes since about 2007. I'm actually from St. Louis. I lived there through the age of 18. Went to a Division II college in Missouri. Lived in the KC area for about 7 months. Was actually with
Your recording time is about to expire. Please finish your message within 8 seconds.
You guys still there?
Yeah. I don't know what that was.
Okay.
I think that was the phone. Did you see him? And then I think it was.
I'm sorry, your recording time has expired. To send this message now, press pound or hang up. To replay your message, press 3.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Kaufman's phone there.
Oh, okay. I see.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you are fine. I'll kind of start back over here. So I was born.
It looks like
High school there. Went to a Division II Missouri. Really enjoyed that a lot. Lived in the KC area for about 7 months. Was with MLBcom covering the Kansas City Royals that year. That'd be 2007. That was a season-long internship type position. Then I moved out to Hayes to cover high schools and to cover the college here, of course, Fort Hays State. So I was the high school and Fort Hays State beat writer for about 6.5 years. And then in that time, started with K-Prep, Sports in Kansas, Cadgett, Kansas. And then for the last probably 4 years now, I've been the main kind of the statewide writer, if you will, for Sports in Kansas and for K-Preps as well, too. So all told, I've been writing about 17 years. And so it's been a great time and something that I've really enjoyed a lot.
That's awesome. So you really kind of started at a bigger stage. You didn't start at high school writings. So you actually started at the MLB.com, correct?
Me that. and so I covered baseball. Summer baseball in particular in St. Louis is huge, and I covered the entire summer baseball beat for free, really, and really enjoyed that a lot, and would travel around basically in about a 30 square mile radius, and wrote a lot, got a lot of clips. My son, I kind of used that. The next summer, I interned with the Sporting News in St. Louis, and then I worked with MLB.com for 2 years, 2006 as the internship. Then 2007, I graduated college and I was in the KC area. Did a lot more traveling with the team that year, and really learned how to cover. You guys still there?
Yeah. Sorry, it went out there for a minute. So.
Okay.
So when you went and did with MLB.com, what was kind of like, what did you have to do when you were there for that? Were you there at every game writing about it, or what kind of?
Yeah, I covered every single game. There was another guy who's now in the Baseball Hall of Fame named Dick Cagle, and he and I split the beat. We would cover. So when you're covering a pro, specifically a baseball game, and really most Division I colleges as well too, if the game starts at 7 p.m. You get there about 2:30, and the clubhouse opens about 3:30. And generally, the coach or manager talks with the media for 10 or so minutes, and then you have players that are there too, and you kind of speak with them, and then you go back up to the press box around 5. And you write basically what's called a notebook story, where those are items about who's hurt, changes in the lineup, streaks, pitching adjustments, all those things that make up the daily team notes and stories. And so you would do that, and then you normally get a quick bite, and then you would cover the game. And then after the game, you would go back downstairs and talk with the players who were key in that game, win or loss. And then normally you would file the game story by about 12. And so that was your day. And then the following day, you would basically do the exact same thing. And normally every week, generally it was Sunday or Monday, we had kind of a major feature story that was due, that we would kind of be working on throughout the week, and kind of be doing that. So, you're just kind of always being very cognizant of what's going on with the team. And, I covered Hays High and TMP and Fort Hays on a daily basis in Hays for, a good, 5, 6 or so years. And I think that really helped me a lot to do what I kind of do now, which obviously I don't cover one team and haven't for a while, but those beat reporting techniques, I think, do help out with what I currently do.
Very well. So we got some more questions for you here that we're going to throw at you.
Yeah, fire away.
So, do you have like a favorite sport you like to write about?
Well, I've always kind of done this where I like to, whatever the season is, and I've always cautioned people of saying, trying not to have a favorite sport to write about, because then you're always looking forward to that sport as opposed to focusing on what's in front of you. And I always tell people too, as I say, you shouldn't just, focus on the postseason. You should focus on what's going on throughout the year, and kind of the build up and understanding of the results and coaches and so on. I would say during an average football and basketball week, I talk to 10 to 20 coaches a week. And some of that stuff is not really used that week. Some of that stuff I just put it in the back of my mind for, okay, this might be used in 3 weeks, or this is a team that I may be seeing at state, or just things like that. And so I always try to map out, okay, what's going on in the state? What are some things I need to be cognizant my coverage of girls wrestling the last 4 years, which is a sport that obviously has emerged quite a bit. And that's not maybe the number one sport for everybody, but I get more positive feedback from coaches, players, parents, anybody associated with girls wrestling than I do with virtually any other sport. And so I really enjoy that a lot. And so the overall point of it is that whatever season you're in, try to always make that your most favorite sport.
I like that. So in writing an article, like, I like how you said that you're almost collecting data throughout the whole year. You're not just they want me to
Mm-hmm.
write about this team or this team's doing really well right now, so I'm just gonna everything on them. You're collecting things from other coaches, or maybe you had information about them that you weren't learned 3 weeks ago. I like how it takes over time, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how you kind of put that stuff together, and you watch them for longer than that week that you're supposed to write about them. I thought that was really cool. I never thought about that either.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
so when it gets to like
Mm-hmm.
playoffs and like say football, basketball, baseball, softball, how do you choose what game you're going to go to?
Well, certainly a lot of it is just the proximity for me. This year for state basketball, I had the opportunity to be in Salina on that Wednesday for my daily schedule, and so I was able to go to the Salina 4A. That was 4A girls on that day, and so the Eudora amazing comeback, the buzzer beater shot to send the game to overtime that Eudora eventually won. I had an opportunity to be there, had an opportunity to watch Miege play. And then I went to Great Bend and saw, several really good games down there on both the boys and the girls side. Then on Saturday, I went to Dodge. And so, all those are roughly 70 to 90 minutes from my house. And so that kind of allowed that. And, those were some storylines too that I really wanted to cover of teams that I generally cover. I mean, I generally cover teams that are roughly Salina, Emporia West, and teams that are generally smaller classifications. My Sports in Kansas colleague, she had kind of covered 5A and 6A. She's more based out in the Emporia area. Bethany Bowman, she does a fantastic job. And so, we kind of had texted and talked, and I said, hey, I'll cover these more Western sites. And she said, that sounds great. And then Chet Coupland, who, owns Sports in Kansas, I know he was at Hutch at least 2 of those days too. So that way we kind of got things covered throughout.
Yeah, I know Bethany Bowman came down here, what was it, this past football season to interview some of our guys during football season. So
I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really cool what she does. Coming and doing those live interviews for people to meet our players a little more in person and kind of see how they are instead of
Mm-hmm.
just always hearing about them in the writing. So I thought that was really cool. You two do a lot of good work together.
Thank you.
So, what kind of goes into writing the articles? Like, how much information do you have to get? Is it kind of free-handed?
Do you have requirements that you kind of have to run with, or is it just kind of what you're feeling for the week? Is kind of it's on you.
Certainly. So I'll kind of answer this broadly, and then I will actually break down, if you guys don't mind, the Canton-Galva St. Francis comeback win. I'll kind of break down how I wrote that state championship story.
Awesome.
I know that's a story that you guys know well, and so on. During the week, though, I'm always just I take about an hour, 2 hours, sometimes even a bit longer. And our impressions piece that's very popular on the football season that goes up Saturday or Sunday kind of allows me to do all that. I go through, honestly, almost every game in Kansas. Now, obviously, there's games that are more important that I spend more time on, or games that obviously that I think everybody knows are more important.
Right.
But you're just you're trying to look for, okay, like a good example of this just from last fall was actually a game that we had highlighted in week 1 was the Canton-Galva Gossel game. And we had made the point on K-Prep Sports in Kansas that you guys in Gossel are in the same league, but you guys were actually on the east and west side of the states. And we felt like and I remember saying this, that I said, Gossel may lose by a margin here, but how close they play Canton-Galva could influence how deep they go in the playoffs. It's a good stick to kind of measure Gossel. We thought that the Weens player was a really nice player. He had several really nice seasons. Then obviously Gossel goes on the west side and makes a good playoff run. I think the quarterfinals again. But knowing from week one how they matched up against you guys influences how we maybe view or see Gossel in November.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, to cover, so the St. Francis Canton-Galva state championship game, I had talked with Coach Hoppus at least twice, I think 3 times during the year, including the week of state. And then the St. Francis coach, I had talked to them a couple of times. I'd watched a game, one of their playoff games on streaming for St. Francis, and I had seen them play early in the season. And when I do an interview with somebody, and I know coaches really like this a lot, because a lot of coaches will say this, is I don't ask just about the star players. There are times, and I'll just use Tyson Struber. There are times when during an interview, I may ask 1 or 2 questions about Tyson, whoever the star is, and I may ask more questions about the offensive line or who is starting at cornerback and safety than I am about the stars. And so when that final happened, I thought that a big matchup in the game was going to be Tyson against their star DB, Brady Nicholl, who eventually went to the Shrine Bowl. Right. And just the way that game played out, in the first half, there was a lot of turnovers and things. The game progresses on. Obviously, the amazing comeback happens. And so I am thinking in the game, there's 7 or 8 media outlets there, whether it be radio or other newspapers or TV or so on. And I am constantly thinking in my head, okay, what can I get after the game that no one else will have? Okay. So right after the game ended, I sent a text to the Kansas historian that I know very, very well. I texted him. I said, hey, biggest comeback ever in Kansas? ? And we thought that it was just because of the margin and such, but you want to check. Okay. And in 30 minutes, he got back to me on that. But what I did, I actually led my game story with this. I followed Coach Hoppus off the field. So I'm literally standing 2 feet behind Coach Hoppus as he walks up. I'm not talking to him. I'm not touching him. I'm not shaking his hand, anything. I am just observing what he is doing.
Right.
And he comes over, you guys have all been there at Newton. He comes over in the end zone area, and he turns to somebody, and he says, I'm paraphrasing here. He goes, I didn't know if we could make that big of a comeback.
Right.
And then I asked him that afterwards, because we kind of did a press conference type thing right there. But I wanted to make certain that my last question was, after the press hadn't left, I said, Coach, I saw you just say to somebody, I didn't think that you had that, couldn't make that comeback, or it didn't think it was going to be possible. I said, Coach, I just wanted to see if you could talk about that and see we're going to have enough time, need all that. And so I wrote my lead on that, and I'm not saying that other stories weren't better. They probably were. but all I'm saying is that I wanted to have something that I know that nobody else had.
Right. Make your article unique.
Exactly right. So then So, and we just kind of ran out of time on that because obviously at Newton, there's also a second game and there's just other time constraints that we face. One thing I wrote in my notebook was, okay, is this the biggest comeback ever? Like ever in high school sports? Because there's always that famous Texas comeback. They did a 30 for 30 on it and just other things but that was only 32 points. Now, that was 32 points in the fourth quarter. That was just kind of its own deal. But I wanted to see, has anybody ever come back down from 36-0? And about 2 days later for Sports in Kansas, I wrote a story on that because there was a Naperville, which is a suburb of Chicago, that I found out they had come down from 40 down. And obviously, not every state's going to have published information on this. So I kind of wrote it as, based on the information that we were able to find, Canton-Galva has the second biggest comeback in the history of, high school. So that was always just a really cool thing to kind of write and talk about. And again, getting information out there that other people don't have.
Right. That's pretty cool, and I like how you try to hunt down that information and kind of make your story that way. And I thought that was really cool how you did that.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's cool. Like after that game, seeing how many people were there that were writing articles about a little 8-man state championship game. Because there were so many other games that day, 6A, 5A, 4A, and it's just cool to see how many people showed up to watch and write articles about it.
Yeah, and I think that I love covering the small schools, and I think that's probably really what I've known about the most. That's what other people tell me what I've known about the most is that, and I think that it also just comes down to no matter what the level is, it's compelling. I coach my oldest daughter is 9, and goodness, third grade girls basketball can get really compelling too. You know what I mean? It's just, and I had an opportunity in 2014 to actually go back and cover pros. I was actually offered to move back to KC. It's kind of a long story behind this. And I said no. I enjoy what I do with high school. Covering a pro beat is great, but does not allow any time for family. At that point, I only had 1 kid, and now I have 2. And I said, no, I enjoy what I do on the high school front, and I don't see myself, changing what I do in anytime soon.
That's awesome. I don't think there's many people out there that would, make the choice you did. And I know there's not many people that, do it like you do. And it's pretty awesome to have somebody, come out here and cover us and give us the attention that you do. I know we're so thankful for it. We love coming, the day after the game or 2 days after the game and seeing that article is just awesome.
Awesome.
So, is there a favorite article you've written or a favorite event that you've covered throughout your time?
Yeah, I would say the Canton-Galva one is definitely high on the list. It's funny, a couple years ago, maybe 2 now, the great Ben Radio asked me for my top 5 of their coverage area, and that includes Emily Ryan and Central Plains and all those things. And I had made mention. I said, I know Canton-Galva is a little bit stretching it for you, but I said I would definitely put that in the top 5. Just some things that just to kind of hit on a few things is I would say the advent from girls wrestling. I was there at the unofficial state tournament in McPherson in 19, and then every year since it's been Keisha oriented was been really, really cool. The Emily Ryan, covering her and covering CP throughout the last 8 or 9 years has been really amazing. I've shared this story at a few other places, but I do want to, because I know Emily Ryan she's just so awesome in so many ways. But I talked to her many times, but I talked to her at probably the lowest point she ever had. And I asked her, I said, do you want to talk about this? And she said, yes, I do. And that was when they were at the state tournament and they found out that COVID was canceled, or that the COVID had canceled state.
Right.
So talking about detail and finding things and time stamping and so on, we were in Dodge. We had it was about 8:45 p.m. and there was some rumors that it might happen, but and then you immediately get the Keisha press release, and I immediately, talking about details, I immediately wrote it in my notebook, 8:48 p.m. And I immediately look up and I say, because the Central Plains girls were watching the girls' game on the court because they were going to be playing the winner of that game.
Right.
And I immediately look up and I have my notebook with me and I immediately start writing down what I'm seeing. I'm seeing girls crying. I'm seeing girls, just bawling. I'm seeing girls looking at their phones and the phones are dinging. And all these things are details. Cassie's crying. I'm like, where is Emily Ryan? And at first I couldn't find her. But then as she was, it's about 9:10 at this point now. And she's kind of walking out and we're in Dodge. And I said, hey, Emily, and her dad's there who I know. I said, Emily, can I just grab you here for a quick minute? She said yes. And so the interview only lasted for 90 seconds, but the quotes that she gave me, I talked to her sister just for some background and things, and that story, we called it a sister's love on a day marred by COVID or something to that effect. Really, it was really, really impactful. I would say that a story that from this fall that really resonated with a lot of folks was on the Andale volleyball coach.
Yeah.
And it is on Sports in Kansas. And her, they had this amazing comeback, and her dad had passed away. Appreciated her. Be the first question. It can't even be the fifth question. And so I wanted to go through players, and I want to go through not only their stars, but they had some really nice servers, just some, supporting role players. And so after about maybe 8 or 9 questions, I had gotten enough information that no matter what, I have a story. Okay, I have a story of how Andale Volleyball won their first ever state title.
Right.
And then I said, Coach, I said, I've done some other pieces on this in the past. I said, do problems and things on volleyball ago. And she said, no, I don't talk about this. And most people do. And that's not something that I go into unless I've done the research and the background behind it of, okay, this is in other places somewhere. I don't necessarily say, hey, tell me about the biggest tragedy in your life. If I don't have any supporting evidence or background for knowing about it already on. Does all that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's gonna wrap up our interview. We got some classes to go to, but we're gonna try to put in as much as we can out of what we got with you. Some stuff cut out, so whatever we can make and put in, we're gonna put in. So don't think that we're cutting any of your great stories because you had plenty.
Yeah, thank you for coming on with us today and just basically talking about what you do and all that, because I think a lot of people don't know, like we talked about where you're from and stuff, and it's just cool to get to know some of you guys like that,
Not a lot of people know behind the scenes and everything. I think this is going to help get everyone an understanding about what goes on behind it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more that goes into, your writings than what people may see in just the final product. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be really cool to put that out. And I know our fans and community will love your story about writing our St. Francis story. So I think that'll be pretty cool for everybody to hear.
Oh, yeah. So thank you.